Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Yeager, Director of Heritage Programs for Missouri Humanities. Thank you so much for joining us today for the third and final installment of our Cultural Resource Management series. This program is brought to you by Missouri Humanities, and our mission is to enrich lives and strengthen communities by connecting Missourians with the people, places, and ideas that shape our society. Whether you're joining us through Zoom or watching on Facebook Live, we invite you to interact with us throughout this program. If you're on Facebook, feel free to comment to let us know you're watching and leave questions for us to consider. And if you're on Zoom, you can use either the chat feature or the Q&A feature to ask questions throughout the discussion. And we will address as many of those questions and comments as we can towards the end of our program. If you enjoy our program today and are interested in seeing more from Missouri Humanities, please check us out on Facebook or on our website for the most up-to-date information about our events. We also have a membership program where benefits include free books, discounted tickets to special programs, and access to members-only events. To become a member, visit www.mohumanities.org and click the Join Today button. After the webinar concludes, a survey should pop up on your screen. I would really appreciate it if you could all take the time to let us know what you thought of the presentation. I'm sure Candy will appreciate it as well. These surveys are so important as we continue to bring public programming to Missourians and work towards a more thoughtful, informed, and civil society. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our presenter today. Candace Sall is the director of the Museum of Anthropology and American Archaeology Division at the University of Missouri. Her presentation today is entitled Cultural Resources, Archaeology, and Your Community. So Candy, go ahead and take it away for us.
Thanks, Caitlin. I appreciate it. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about some of my favorite things, cultural resources and archaeology, and talking to our communities. I love giving tours at the museum. I love talking to people about what I do, and I've loved archaeology. I've wanted to be an archaeologist since I was 12. I'm a trained anthropologist, but archaeology is my specialty. So I'm excited to talk to you today and show you some things that we do here. First thing is, if you might want to be an archaeologist or you're working with items, what do you do if you find an artifact? Now, it's different if you find an artifact in the back of your museum or in your historical society or in an archive somewhere, in a courthouse. You'll find things all over. What do you do if you find it? Well, if it's on your land, you want to note where you are located. You want to know, how is that artifact situated? Is it sitting in the creek? Is it found on the bluff top? Did you find it in the back of an old building or shed? How is it situated? You want to know that. You want to know its context and what's around it, because that'll tell you more about that item. If you find one piece somewhere by itself, it doesn't give you a lot of clues on what it is, but if you find several tools together, it might be a toolkit and belong together. So you're going to want to look around and see what's in there. And if you pick it up or pull it out of the ground, if it's just sticking out of the side, will it destroy the artifact? Will it make the dirt crumble? Will the building fall down? Are you pulling out a brick? What are you doing? So you want to think about those things and don't just reach out as a child, or adults might, and pull it, and it might actually break off the end. It might be much longer than you think it is. These are some artifacts that we have in the museum I wanted to show you. Because we all like to look at things, right? I love to see them. So on the left, you'll see a bone awl, which is an animal bone that has been broken and sharpened into an awl. Is a very useful tool. And that circle there is a shell bracelet. So shells are made into beads or bracelets or carved into lots of different things. And then we have 3 pieces of pottery in the middle with a scale, so you can kind of see the different designs on the pottery and the different materials they're made of. These have shell tempering, so ground up shell in them. So you'll look at that and the designs on there. Then the next 3 little objects, those are actually gun flints. So they are stone tools, but they're historic. They're gun flints that you might find in a flintlock gun. And then flintlock rifle, beautiful Dalton point. It's big and beautiful, gorgeous piece that we have here in the museum. And you can see how it was made and sharpened, and all those little flakes up the side to sharpen it and shape it. So it's really interesting to see what you're finding, but also where is it? Where is it on the land? What is it next to? So on your land, you're going to note where you are, see how it's situated, and work on that. If you find an artifact on public land, a lot of people don't know that you cannot take objects if it's not your land. So if you find an arrowhead or a spear point at the state park, you can touch it, but you should put it back. Don't leave it there. So note where you are. Same thing. Maybe take a photo of where it is. So you can show where it is, and you can contact their agency and let them know. They'll have cultural resources staff, and they can come out and check it and make sure it's recorded. They keep track of all of their cultural resources on their land, be it a state park, a national forest, a national site. They have special people that can take care of that. And so if everybody takes something, then there won't be anything left. If you take an arrowhead and your child takes an arrowhead, but everyone else does that on the weekend, by the end, there's not enough for the archaeologists to see and learn about what people are there. Are there all the way back into archaic times, or is it only recent? It doesn't give the full picture of who was there if things are missing. So you can see I have pictures of Rockbridge State Park, which is our local state park here in Columbia. It's beautiful. It's been used all the way back through prehistoric times. There was a mill there. The bridge is amazing, the Rock Bridge, but Native Americans live there as well. And then people are building all around it too. And so there's modern houses all around. You can see in the middle photo, I have Bowes Mill Float Camp. I put that one in there because I actually got to visit that one this summer. We were floating the 11 Point. And so it is a float camp there. You can see the wall has built right there, and the water is so cold. But that's there on, it's on the 11 Point River, but that's on Mark Twain National Forest land. But you can see that. And then Graham Cave State Park is a very special state park. The Graham family has owned it since the 1800s, and they were finding artifacts in there. And they called the university out to ask them about it. And then they were gracious enough to let the university and the Missouri Archaeology Society excavate that and record it and write reports. And that's how we know about the people that visited and lived in Graham Cave State Park. It's the first archaeological site that was designated a National Historical Landmark in the 60s. And it's been occupied for over 10,000 years. This is a very important site. Thankful to the Graham family for inviting people out and working with the archaeologists side by side to find out more about the peoples there. But if everyone took everything, then we wouldn't have that. But you can visit Graham Cave. It's right off I-70. It's lovely. It's in between Columbia and St. Louis. But it's a beautiful place. There's a little waterfall on the side too. So I recommend it any time of the year. So that's what you do if you find something on public land. Note where it is and tell the resource officer, the archaeologist or cultural resource person, and they will know what to do about that. What do you do if you have a historic site or prehistoric site on your land or on land that you're managing? If you own any land or any acres, you likely do own some kind of site. It could be a historic farmstead. It could be a campfire. It could be a campfire from 1900, or it could be from 900, right? Things go back in time. If you have a site, you can call the State Historic Preservation Office and tell them the location, and they can see if it's already registered. So your site will have a number. It's like Graham Cave State Park has an archaeological site number. It is 23MT2. Missouri is 23rd state alphabetically when the signing started. And MT is because it's in Montgomery County, and 2 because it's the second site recorded in Montgomery County. We've been recording sites in Missouri since 1935. Of course, the bigger ones are known faster and get recorded, so they often have smaller numbers. But what you do is you can find out your number, and if it's not registered, you can register your site to help let people know it's there. This helps if a developer is coming through or something's happening, they want to put in a new highway or something. Someone will check the site forms and see if there's already a site there, and they can tell you, like don't build there, scooch over 10 feet, we can try to mitigate things that happen to cultural resources. So that's kind of what Jeff was talking about last week. But we can know where the sites are. If you have it on your land, hopefully you'll want to protect your land, protect your site. I know farmers that just don't plow certain areas because they find artifacts there and they just leave them alone, or they don't build a shed there, or you make decisions about your land. And you can share your info with your community through signs, talks, or online info. So you can have a web page and put your information up. You can have a Facebook page even. Some people don't have web pages, they have Facebook page and post interesting things, or I found this artifact today. You know, it can be very formal or it can be very informal. A very organized talk, or I found this and I want to show you this one object. We're just going to talk about this one object today. If you find an archaeological site, historic or prehistoric, on public land, let the land managers know. Some may already know, some may not. It might be a new site or not. But often things can be uncovered when it rains. So there may be something there that they hadn't seen until the rain washed away some layer of dirt, and then it exposes a homestead or a foundation or something like that. Water pipes, it could be anything. They will want to know about that on public land. So those are some of the things you can do. You can record it, you can learn about it, you can protect it, and you can talk to people about it. People want to know what's in their backyard, what's happening around them. When I have people visit the collection storage we have at the museum, they want to go to the section that's from their county. They want to see what's coming out of their county. And so people like to see the local things that's happening around them. But who can you talk to about artifacts? We're not experts in everything. None of us are. I specialize in prehistoric archaeology. So historic archaeology, I might call someone else and say, hey, I don't know as much about this historic thing, ceramics or glass or things that we don't have glass in prehistoric times where I am here in Columbia. So I might ask for help. So you can also ask for help about what you have. Maybe you're a historic society and you don't know the prehistoric objects. So you can always ask your local university or community college. They'll have professors there, and if they don't, they will know who you can talk to. If you have a local museum or historic society, you can ask them. They will know someone. The Missouri Archaeological Society, they always help out if someone has a question. We can usually find a member that is near you. So sometimes they can come in person, or you can send photos of an object with a scale in there, and they can help you identify your things that way. So people like to help out. And so they will tell you certain things, like this picture here is a Graham Cave point. It is named because we first found it and identified that type in Graham Cave. Types are created by archaeologists. These kind that are side notched and then have a concave base. That is a Graham Cave description. So that's what this one is. You can learn about things like this is a local church. This one's made out of the manufacturing technique. It is chipped stone. So it's a negative production process where you're taking off pieces of stone to make it sharper or to shape it. And then time period. The Graham Cave points are found in the layers that are early archaic. So you'll see that around 8,000 to 5,000 BC. This is not an arrowhead. These are very long points. They would not fly on an arrow. They would be too heavy. And this is before the bow and arrow was invented in the United States. We've only had bow and arrow since 500 AD, so only 1,500 years. And I do say it only because people have lived in Missouri at least 11,200 years. So 500 AD is not that long ago. And so this is a Graham Cave projectile point. It would be a spear or heavy atlatl dart. So those are some of the things you can learn. So if you have a few pieces, you don't know what they are, you want to put them in your museum or put them in a little exhibit or put them in a big exhibit, we can help you identify them and label them so that you can share your information with people. And so we're always happy to do that and help people out. So that's something that you can do. You can learn about them yourself. How to share your resources with people. There's many ways to share. I have just five listed here today that we'll talk about. Feel free to have questions for me. I'm not an expert in all of them, but we will talk about what we have. Digital ways to share. You can have a web page like Graham Cave State Park does. It talks about the history of the cave, how it came to be, how it came to be part of the state park, how we learned about it through the excavations, who was helping, how the Graham family invited people out to see what it was as they were working in their cave. And then you can go out there and see it. So you can learn about stuff before you go, and you can go out there and see it. And then the Missouri Archaeology Society, they have a Facebook page, and they had posted in September about the Buck O'Neill Bridge that they're building in Kansas City. So as they're excavating for the bridge, they brought in the archaeologists and they found all of this historic materials. And so that's really interesting to see, like, what was coming out of there, who was living around that part of Kansas City that far back in time. And so you can see that some of the artifacts are out for when the TV people came by. It was really interesting to see the different kind of glass and stone and bricks and the big jug there. And you can put that out on web pages. Social media is free if you can run it yourself. Facebook is free, and so you can get information out that way. You can also do Instagram, Twitter, things like that. You can tie them together so that when you post in one, it posts in others. So there's different things that you can do to get your message out to as wide of audience as possible without physically being there. So that's one of the ways. Interpretive signs. People love signs or they don't love signs. They'll read them or they don't. Sometimes people will look at the signs, then go look at what you're showing them. Sometimes they want to go look at what you're showing them and then go to your sign to say, what did I just see? Like, why was that important? And you can explain that on your signs. It can be as simple as a sign outside the Truman home in Independence with no photos. It's just telling you about the house and the place. You can take a tour of the Truman home and go inside too. Bothwell Lodge, which is over by Sedalia, is one of our state historic sites. It's a very large house, but they have signs out there telling about the history of the area and the people that moved through that house, how he built it and things like that. And you can also go in the house for a tour. This is kind of an outside thing, but it has pictures and it tells you the history. So if you want to read more, you can read more, or if you choose not to read or you don't have time, you can do that. Also nice if the museum is closed or your facility is closed, the signs outside, if people have, want to stop, they can at least read that and get a little bit of information. So that's nice. You don't have to have someone physically there to see your signs. And so those can be very helpful. Oops. Sorry about that. You can do exhibits. That's traditional in the museum. It could be big, like this one in the middle of the State Historical Society. This is their art gallery. And you can do a huge one, full rooms full. They actually have a video, a YouTube video that I stole this picture from, that I borrowed their picture from their video. So you can see a walkthrough of their suffrage exhibit. And you can do that. They really put a lot more stuff on the web like this because of COVID, so that people could see in the museum, even if the museum was not open. It is open now, but they do some very large exhibits. They team up with other people. You can do exhibits, not just yourself. I know that the Mizzou Historic Textile and Costume Museum partnered with them and brought in some of the clothing. You can team up with other museums that have things that you don't have and do a more complete exhibit or show a different part and highlight each other. That can be helpful, but you don't have to have a big room such as this. On the left, I have 3 pieces of Mississippian pottery, and that's just a pedestal with a cover on it. And that is an exhibit we had on Mississippian pottery here at the Museum of Anthropology. And you could see those. We are not open right now. We are closed. We are packing to move to our new location. So come see us next year on the main part of the Mizzou campus. But you'll be able to see pottery. And at the top, you'll see those are actually shoes. Those are the shoes from Arnold Research Cave. They are the 2nd oldest shoes in the world. It is the oldest open-toed sandal, but it is the 2nd oldest shoe period in the world. They are made out of rattlesnake master, which grows here in Missouri in our prairies. And it still grows here today, and they're woven different ways, different styles. We can see styles. They can be slip-on shoes, they can be sandals, they can tie up the ankle, or just slip on sort of like a moccasin. That small skinny one there is a leather. It is leather with grass padding in it. It's beautiful, sort of like a ballet slipper today shape. And then we have also some that are overshoes. And so you can learn about something you wouldn't think of, something that normally does not preserve, but it did. And so we're able to show the styles and know the dates. So you can show those things off. This one is actually in a special exhibit because plant material does degrade, it is perishable. It's in a special exhibit that has very tight humidity control. It's in a sealed case with a tight humidity control microclimate. So you have to also think about your exhibits. Is it going to destroy what you're going to put in there? Is it going to have a harmful effect? So light can destroy things, high humidity, low humidity, those things can hurt your objects. So you have to think about that. Can you put it out? What can you do to mitigate it? So we're using a microclimate here. You can also trade out the shoes so that they're not out very often. And that one actually has a motion sensing light. So they're not in light unless someone is looking at them. So the light turns off when no one's in there. So these are some things you can do to get your resources out to your community, and then ways that you can protect your objects. And you'll have learned about exhibiting from Amber, her great presentation. But those are some of the things that we do here to show off those kind of things. So you can do big exhibits, little exhibits. It can be a sign on a wall with an object hanging up inside there or on there. It can be simple or as exquisite as you like. So there's some of the things you can do. You can do talks and lectures about things. People want to learn about what cultural resources. This is a lecture we had in our museum. You can see the exhibits on the right-hand side with the archaeology in there. People, chairs we could put in, turn down the lights, put up the screen. And Dr. Bruce McMillan was talking about archaeology from the Ozark Bluff shelters. So further south in Missouri and northern Arkansas. So he was talking about the artifacts found down there. So that was really interesting to learn about those, and it ties in with the shoes and the atlatls, things like that. An atlatl is the precursor to the bow and arrow, where you use an atlatl, a stick that makes your arm longer and you can throw spears with. And we found an atlatl foreshaft here in mid-Missouri, but also an atlatl down in near the border. That's the only known atlatl from Missouri. So he was talking about those kind of things. So you can tie it together. Okay, you have this cool item, but what else? What else did they find in there? What were they living like? What were the plants? Things like that, things you can learn. It could be a formal presentation where everyone comes in and sits and listens. It can be a brown bag lunch where we all sit around and talk about this cool tool that I found. This is actually a replica. This is a 3D printed replica of a tool we do have in the museum. It's an archaic bone pin. It's a turkey bone, often used to pin on clothes. It'd be pointy at the end, it's broken. But we could use to pin on bones, or you could also stick it in your hair as a hairpin to tie your hair up. We find several of these in the archaic period in Missouri. And so we could just talk about this and we could pass it around, and people can look at it while they're having lunch and ask questions like, well, what kind of people were they here? And someone will ask you, what tribe was here then? And we'll say, I don't have tribal names back that far. But it's interesting to just see and to be able to touch something. We don't let people touch things in the museum, but if you can get a 3D replica, that helps. It also helps people that are vision impaired if they can hold something. This one is decorated with a zigzag line down it and then circles down the side, but you can feel that. So it's something that you can feel. So you can have that in an exhibit. You can have a piece that people can talk about, or you can have it where they can touch it as well. So I wanted to show off talks and lectures in brown bags. You could do a talk on any of those objects you see in the picture. You can talk about in the front there on the right hand side, those small little pots, those are woodland pottery. You can talk about woodland pottery and how it's made and manufactured. And then further down is the Mississippian pottery. You can talk about how they start putting shell in the clay and firing it and making anthropomorphic figures, so shaped like animals. There's a lot of wood ducks and turtles and frogs. Also zoomorphic, shaped like animals, and anthropomorphic, shaped like humans. So there is people's heads on there and full bodies on there in the other exhibit across the way that you can see behind the glass. So those are different kind of pots shaped like humans. And so you can see that, and you can do a talk about anything that someone wants to talk about, and someone will want to come here. So it could be that you found this really cool piece of a gun, of a rifle from a musket in the back of your historical society. You can talk about that and talk about what kind of pieces. What do you do if you're in the frontier and your rifle breaks? What do you do? So you can present those in talks, lectures, formal or not. It can be outside. But you can also have events. And events is when you get a lot of people in at once. So on the left, you can see we had an Anthropology Day exhibit. And we have people from different places all over campus come out and talk about whatever their specialty is. Weavers, writing in different languages, or learning to use fountain pens or calligraphy or anything that might be tied into your event. You can have different people come in. You can tour the museum. You can set up a scavenger hunt to have kids look for these designs, and they really have to pay attention. And the two pictures on the right are from our Archaeology Day exhibit or event that we had. And we have a lot of objects from South America where they might be using the backstrap loom. So we have a weaver here using a backstrap loom. She's got it tied to the door handle. That's not where she normally weaves, but she's got that on there making a belt. And that's how they made the weeples in the picture there on the black background. Those are shirts that the textile museum here on campus has, and they're woven with that same kind of loom. So we wanted to show how you do it and show you some of the amazing pieces that were made in Central and South America. So you can do an event and show off some things and get some hands-on. Some people want to let people try weaving, or they might have a little sample that they can try, or they can practice writing or whatever it is. And people like to have the hands-on exhibits, and also to be able to ask directly a weaver, how did you do that? How can I do that? How did you make this color? How did you learn this? Like, who showed it to you in the first place? All the questions you want to ask, you can ask them there at an event. So those are some of the things you can do. But what can you do if you need resources? The first thing you can do is talk to the people that you have the thing from, or your resource from, and or their descendants. So if it's a historic site, does the family still live here? Are there descendants here? Is it a prehistoric site? Is it a tribal land? So is it an Osage village? Talk to the Osage then. They have all their information on the web. You can talk directly to them and find out more information and get the stories and get them up however way you decide, if you want it to be digital or you want to have signage or you want to have an exhibit. But you can talk to them directly, and that's the number one resource I would say you would have, is to talk to them directly. I'm in Columbia, so I would talk to the Smith family if it was historic, or the Sappingtons or the Sapps. So families that may have been in your area in a long time, or tribes that are there, you can find out about and learn from. So Van Meter State Park is actually is a Missouri tribe site. And so you can talk to the tribe. Graham Cave, you can talk to the Graham family. The Graham house is still standing on the other side of I-70. So you can talk to them directly. If you need help from things, the State Historic Preservation Office can help you. They have a lot of information on their webpage, including how to record a site. If you have an archaeological site, what to do, if you find something. Something most people don't know is, that you can't take objects from other people's land, but also you can't disturb any burials. So I want to mention that as well. If you run into human remains or a burial, you need to stop and call the sheriff or the SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, if you think it's historic. The sheriff knows when to pass it off to the SHPO's office if it's prehistoric or historic. But yes, no one can, based on Missouri state human burial laws, no one can disturb a burial. So that's who will help you with that. Missouri State Parks, if you're on a state park, or you think there's a lot of historic sites on our state parks. So state parks are always reachable. The Missouri Archaeology Society has chapters all across the state. You can ask them about archaeology, and they have a lot of resources on their webpage as well. The State Historical Society of Missouri has a lot on their webpage. You can check with them. And then here at the Museum of Anthropology, we have a lot on our webpage, including our databases of objects. So you can go in there and say, show me all of the Cahokia points, and it'll bring up the Cahokia points, the information on where they're from, and photos of them. You can look up this bone tool, and it will show you that it's from Boone County, and information like that, and see the photo of it with the measurements, so you can see about that information. And so our collections are online. Not everyone has them all online, and not everyone has all of them online. But check that out and see what you can do. But always feel free to reach out and call or email any of these state offices. That's what we're here for. That's what we want to do. And so we wanted to offer that information on where to go. It is the Museum of Anthropology. That confuses some people that it should say archaeology, but we are fully anthropology here, but we have archaeologists on staff. And so feel free to give us a call or send us a photo if you don't know what something is. We'll help you out as best we can. Sometimes we get stuff that's new to us and we hadn't seen before, but generally we can always help out. And we're familiar with the local tools and the local materials and things like that. So we're always happy to help on those kind of things. So that's really what I have for today. We have time for questions. I can always tell stories. I'm really good at stories.
We have somebody that asked a really interesting question. So Deb asks, did humans inhabit Missouri earlier than 11,200 years ago? What was the artifact that was found that dated their presence that long ago?
Yeah, so definitely at least, I always say it that way, at least 11,200, because many artifacts have been found. We call it the Paleo-Indian period. Archaeologists are very fancy. Paleo means old. It's the oldest time we know for sure. More information is coming out in different parts of North America that people have been here longer than 11,200, but we can often date things that are near the object. So if this bone tool was there and it was next to a fire and there was a piece of charcoal, we could radiocarbon date that charcoal and find out the date of when that fire was. We can bone, actually we can test on its own, but like if it was next to a stone tool, you can't radiocarbon date stone, but you can organic materials. So if it was near a fire, we could do that. Or if it was in with a mammoth bone, we could date the mammoth bone, things like that. So back then, 11,200 was what is called Clovis. And so that's a specific type of stone tool, and they were alive during the Ice Age. So there's mammoths and mastodons here in Missouri both. And so you can find those kind of tools in association with those bones. So the Kimswick bone bed, you can visit out by St. Louis way, shows some of the tools and the mammoths and mastodons there. So yeah, that's how we can tell. We can estimate and we can put things in order. We always find this one lower than the other one, so that one's probably older, but you can really narrow it down if you can get a radiocarbon date and then tie that to a calendar.
So what happens when you can't carbon date? You just take your best guess?
We use relative dating. So if I found, like this was found in a creek, so I can't radiocarbon date, it got washed by the water. It's not in its normal place. And so, but I know that these have been found at a different site that they did radiocarbon date. So we go by style. So this style is found in the Archaic period. We don't see it later really. And so if we can't date that specific one, if we find the others, we can. And so we can do that. That's how we know Clovis ended in the Ice Age, because that's where we find them and they've been dated. Not all of them, of course, because you could find a Clovis laying right on the ground today with nothing to date around it. But because of the style, we know the others date to that time. Yeah.
So yes, everybody feel free to submit questions for Candy to consider. I've got a couple things that I noted. So you kind of briefly brought up burials. And if this is a topic that you like just don't want to get into, that's fine, because I know that it's a loaded topic, but is there anything you want to talk about when it comes to NAGPRA, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act? Is that something that Missouri organizations should be very well aware of if they're dealing with archaeology? And obviously, if you're an organization that deals with archaeology and anthropology all the time, you know what NAGPRA is. But you never know when you might stumble upon something. So do you want to talk a little bit about NAGPRA?
Yes, absolutely. That is something that I do here at the university. Back in the day, not too much today, archaeologists would specifically dig up burials to find out what's there and what the people, they wanted to know about the people, but they treated them differently. Instead of reburying them as if we dug up a historic burial and had to move it for a road was going through or whatever, you would put it back in the ground. But the Native Americans were treated differently. They were put on the museum shelves, and their objects were put in museums. And so today, part of my job is to figure out which tribes those objects and people go to and match them up with the tribe's help. I can't decide on my own. Culturally affiliate them. Who was here historically? Does this tribe, does this site have a name? Do we know which tribe specifically was at this site? Or do we know what tribes were in this area at that time? And then match them up with the tribes, work with the tribes, and give them back so that they may take care of their ancestors and their funerary objects. So that is NAGPRA, the Graves Protection Act, to work to get those remains back and get them off museum shelves so they can be treated respectfully. So we do that. NAGPRA covers federal land and tribal lands, but it doesn't cover private land. But Missouri has their own unmarked burial law. So no one can desecrate a grave. No one, if you find human remains, stop what you're doing and call the right person in. They can help you with what needs to happen. And sometimes people just really, even historic burials, they did not know someone was there and they went to dig a new basement. And turns out 100 years ago, someone was put right there, right? As people's families grow or as they move their house over, or they build a new house. It happens all the time. And so treating the remains respectfully and taking care of them is a big part of it. Yeah.
So something that I'm just going to anticipate, because people tend to always have questions about this, regardless of the topic, funding opportunities. So when somebody, obviously the first step, if somebody comes across a site or an object, is to contact the right people and figure out what that place or what that object is. But say, they want to do some sort of bigger project, they have, they want to do a survey, or they want to, bring in specialists to do research. What kinds of opportunities are there, whether they're, people that will come in and do it, kind of, for free or as part of their normal job, or whether it's something to where they might need to find a little bit of money to help them out with. What are some resources that people can use to help with equipment, or to help find the right people, to fund the right people? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the people ask me that all the time. Can you come bring ground penetrating radar?
Right.
No, I don't have any.
Right.
But I know who does. So we can figure out what we would need to do. If you just need someone to come out and look at something, or if you do want to hire a survey of 50 acres that you bought, it can happen. We have archaeologists all over the state who is their job to come out, and they'll do it for you and write you a full report and show you things. Absolutely. Burns and McDonnell in Kansas City, the Archaeological Resource Center in St. Louis, the Center of Archaeological Research in Springfield. So there's all kinds of people that do it and get paid to do that. So they help if a development's going in, or they help if the road's going through, or federal money is going to build this building. Well, we want to make sure there's no archaeology there before you start bringing in the diggers. So you can definitely pay for it. If you need someone to just come out, call the Archaeology Society. They'll have someone near you who can probably come out, or probably start with photos so they know what it is a little bit. So we would know who to send, right? Is it a historic homestead? Is it something with a lot of animal bones? We're going to want to have a zooarchaeologist come out so they can tell you about the animals. So if you can send photos, that's the first step. And then we can work with you to find out what needs to happen. These big excavations in the past, like digging Graham Cave, things like that, some of them will have funding. The state park wanted to know information, or the National Science Foundation would fund Dr. Chapman to do some work down in the Boot Hill. And then people would get hired to come and help dig and sort and write up the reports and analyze all the things. So there's lots of different funds to do that. But looking at pictures is always free. We'll look at something and help you and advise you. You're the decision maker on your land. But we're here to help in any way that we can. To figure out what to do. Yeah, so we're always happy to do that. We're not going to come dig up cool stuff and hand it to you and walk away. That costs money. And we don't recommend digging on your own land. We recommend that you You can collect on the surface, of course, but if you're digging down in, you can destroy the context around. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Great.
And record everything, label everything, take pictures of everything. So much easier now that we have cell phones.
Right.
Yeah. So that's really helpful. That's a good question. Who do I call?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously, the purpose of a lot of these, webinars that we do is to help people who don't have a lot of resources or don't know where to start. So, obviously the first thing that people think of a lot of times is money. And I think what's nice is that there really are a lot of resources out there that are free, or at least, very close to free, that at least will get you started. A lot of times information is free and advice is free. And I think those are kind of unparalleled. But yes, I think you get kind of into the nitty gritty when people talk about, wanting to actually do a survey or a dig. And so, yeah, I think, I think you pointed out a lot of great resources for people to start. And you must have done a very good job, because we don't have a lot of questions. So, I mean, we'll keep on for a few more minutes. We've got time. So if anybody has questions, feel free. But Candy, anything else that you'd like people to know, or what would you like to talk about? Any stories in particular that might be helpful?
Just that we're here. A lot of people are like, I didn't know I could ask you these things. Like, yes, of course you can ask me these things. I love to talk to people. It's part of my job. I have the best job ever. But I love to talk about archaeology and bones and stones and pottery and people and how they would live and what plants were here, like little barley and maygrass and chenopodium, which we eat today, a species of that quinoa, right? Amaranth, things like that people were eating. Back corn, beans, and squash later on when they were agriculturalists. We're agriculturalists today, things like that. So you can always just ask questions and send pictures, and I get the craziest questions. Sometimes I don't have an answer because I'm like, no one asked me that before. Give me a second.
That's a new one.
Right. And people, I love people. People are so different, and they think differently, and they'll come up with something. And I'm like, I never thought of that. And so I love to do that. And so we're resources that are here. We love to help. But also I love saving stuff too. I love when signs go up. I love preserving or help to preserve a site on the west side of our town. And that was a big deal that the developers were able to skip that section and leave it as it was. And so that was very helpful. So it's like you work so hard to preserve stuff here in the museum, but if you can save it where it is on the land, that makes a big difference. And so I'm very happy to have been able to help with that one. But I see we have a question.
Yes. Deb asking, in the St. Louis area, looking for a group to tour Historical Society collection to help validate what they think they have.
Absolutely. I do this often, maybe not as often as I like. I wish I had more free time. Just come out and maybe I can't tell you everything you have, but I will, come by and look at things. In the St. Louis area, there's a very strong local chapter of the Archaeology Society. So that's called the Mound City Archaeology Society. They meet monthly, so you can contact them. They are on the web with their phone number and email, I think, but definitely on there. So you can ask about that. If it's more historic stuff, just your county historical society. Some counties have more than one.
St. Louis has many, I'm sure.
Right. So they'll come help you, send pictures first, email them and ask to send a few pictures. Don't send 100. That might be too much at first, but you can send several, and they can tell you what they know or pass it on. Sometimes I get something in and I'm like, that is an animal bone. I don't know what kind. Let me ask my zooarchaeologist. And they'll be like, that is a cougar. That did happen to me. It was a cougar bone. So that was exciting that came in from Missouri. So we have lots of different things. If you guys know the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles, and they had, the saber-toothed cat and mammoths and things. I assume saber-toothed cats like it warm, but no, it was Ice Age. And so they're in Missouri. They have found them in Missouri, but also mammoths and mastodons. So sometimes you can be surprised, and we can figure out what specific thing you might have and who might the specialist be. Southwestern pottery, I'm your person. But just seeing all the things that we have here and working here so long. I've been here 17 years. So I can ID a lot of things. That makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We had someone call, I have a mammoth tooth, and you're like, 90% of the time they're wrong. He was so right. I was like, oh my God, you do. And I was like, so what do you want me to tell you? You totally have one. You already figured it out on your own. So that was exciting to say, absolutely not a mastodon, that's mammoth. And then to point people in the directions that they might have are, they think they have a prehistoric sloth, and it turned out to be a horse. Bones are weird, right? Get the wrong piece, and to figure it out. So I love a mystery, and that's sometimes what it is, a mystery of what can we figure out today.
Yeah.
So that's something that we do. But always come to the museum. We're moving, so you can't come right now. We are on the website, and you can look at different things. But we'll open next year on the main campus, and still planning to be free admission. So come on over. But one thing we were pushing with the Missouri museums during COVID, when we started opening up, to travel locally. So go see your local museums. Maybe you go to Kansas City or St. Louis to see different museums. We'll look at your local ones and see what they're doing. That can take you, get you out of the house and get you to see new things. And there's great things in your backyard you don't even know, or they've changed them out, or they got new owners, or they've changed out all the exhibits. It's not what you thought before. So things are always the same, and things are always changing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and while we kind of wrap up, I'll give us still a few more minutes in case more questions come in, but I'll give you guys some more information that, so this is part 3 of a 3-part series. So after today, the series concludes. So thank you, Candy, for being our last one. But all 3 parts. So the first one was the museum exhibition with Amber Clifford. And then we had managing cultural resources at the community level with Jeff last week. And now we've got Candy's archaeology presentation. All 3 parts of those are available currently on our Facebook page. So this is on Facebook Live. So it'll be on the Facebook page as soon as it's over. And then I will also get this one uploaded to our YouTube channel, and there will be a playlist for this specific program series on our YouTube channel. So you can find all 3 of those there. So if you find that these were really helpful and you want to share them with members of your community or other organizations or your staff, please feel free to do so. Those are out there for everybody to use. If you guys want to see more events like this or other events that Missouri Communities offers, we offer lots of different things. Go to our website or our Facebook page. Those have the most up-to-date events. We have our biggest event of the year coming up this weekend. It's our annual Momentum Gala. There are still some tickets available. I think we're almost full, but there's still some tickets available if anybody wants to attend. It's in St. Louis at the Forest Park Visitor Center. And our keynote speaker this year is Lillian Cunningham. And she is a columnist for the Washington Post, and she runs a podcast called Constitutional, which is really, really interesting. So she'll be our keynote speaker. And we'll have lots of fun things, a silent auction, drinks and food, and that'll also be available virtually as well. So if you can't make it to St. Louis, but you want to see Lillian's keynote speech, you can watch it virtually for free. So check out our website for more information on how to access that. But in the meantime, we want to thank everybody for attending these last few weeks. I think this series has been really great. I've learned a lot of things. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on what other people have learned. Candy, thank you right there. Contact information for her if anybody has questions. And don't freak out if you forget something from this presentation, or you thought of a resource, but then you forgot. Certainly reach out to Candy and just say, point me in the right direction. There's no wrong way to turn when you're looking for help. Just reach out to me. You never know where I could connect you. So we're happy to help in whatever way we can to help your cultural organizations and your communities. So yes, thank you again, Candy. And please feel free, at the end of this, there will be a survey that pops up. Please feel free to take that survey. Won't take very long, but they are really important to us. We are not an organization that stuffs surveys in a drawer and never looks at them. We truly read every single word, and we take that to heart, and we want to learn more about what you guys want to see and what you guys are liking and learning. So please take a few minutes to fill out that survey. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and conclude. Candy, thank you again.
Absolutely.
Everybody, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Stay tuned to Missouri Humanities for more. Thanks, everybody.